And with the man being the head of the family, his mental health trickles down to everybody else. It bleeds on his wife, it bleeds on his kids. And I tell men all the time, like, you cannot hide anything because everything you're trying to hide is coming out of your pores. It's bleeding, it's in your reactions, it's how you think about things, it's in your circumstances, it's literally your reality. And and so being at the top is the most important because you have to be able to show up healthy, have space to even take on somebody else's emotions, especially your wife and your kids. You have to really be able to show up in a space, a posture of I'm at peace knowing that the world is after me, but I have love here.
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions, Mental Health and Behavioral Health Counseling here in Iowa.
I'm Tenesha. I'm a mental health and wellness advocate. And the mission of the podcast, You Need a Counselor, is a podcast designed for people curious about counseling, but who have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, or indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
Our guest today is Adam Wilson. Adam is a men's mindset and trauma coach. He is also a public speaker. He is the host of the Inner King Initiative podcast. Adam primarily works with high achievers, helping men to heal from within, to reset their lives, to work through some of that mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual roots of some of the struggles that they may face in their day-to-day lives. And Adam is helping men to transform their pain into purpose and to have that sustainable success in their lives every day. So welcome, Adam. Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you guys having me on. How's everybody doing today?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And so tell me a little bit about the kind of mindset and trauma-focused coaching that you do.
So primarily, I work with men to find and unleash their inner king. And we think about a lot of the struggles that we as men face in the mental health space. A lot of it is tied from childhood, right? A lot of the traumas that we endured or gained, a lot of the things that we heard. And so it's breaking that mold that it has on our bodies. It's been like, what, 20 plus years for a lot of men, right? And just breaking the hold that those old lies have and revealing the truth.
So what kinds of truths are coming out once we break that mold, once we break those kind of barriers or identify those barriers and kind of start fighting through them? What kinds of, truths are kind of coming out from that work?
It's going to be the truth about yourself, right? Like why you were created, who you really are under all that shell. Because in the first 7 years of our lives, that's like the most important. Because as our child brains, we're absorbing everything at a high frequency, and then that's like our foundation. And so we hear a lot of lies, from other kids in school, from our parents, just experiences, and it's breaking down those to see who you really are, what is your purpose here, and what really truly brings you joy and brings you peace.
What are some of the issues that you deal with men when they first come to you for help?
A lot of them would be like self-doubt. They're struggling with just finding their identity and their purpose. Some of it can be marital issues. And sometimes it's not really the marriage that's the issue. It's something that came from childhood that stems up. So there's a lot of childhood activity in there as well.
What kinds of techniques are you utilizing when you've identified that there's some childhood trauma, that there's some identity challenges, right? That maybe are not in alignment with who we actually are or who we actually were designed to be. I hear a lot about um, just challenging those things that we've grown up with, those messages that we've heard. What kinds of interventions are you using for that?
So because I'm not a licensed therapist, I kind of use like a reflective model just to guide as the coach. And so I like to start off with say like, hey, think about your life and the negative things that you always thinking about. Like what happened, who caused it, and what was the result of what happened. And a lot of the times when these men are going through it, they're realizing like, this is not my belief. This is my parents' belief. And it could be something as simple as a spending habit or not having money because you heard it from your father, like, okay, I don't have money, I don't have money, not knowing that you're being programmed to know that men don't have money, right? And you can look at it as the father not in the home or the father in the home. You can see a difference in the men that are coming up, right? So I do a lot of reflective work with them and just a lot of talking. And I like the community aspect that I'm building because it allows other perspectives to come in and also help as well.
I've did a series on healing your inner child because I deal with a lot of childhood trauma on my platform too. Because I know a lot of what we go through and the decisions we make come from childhood trauma. And
Yeah.
so um, I've had men on my platform too who, like a lot of the self doubt and sometimes a lot of the ego come from, like I say, childhood things. A lot of times men don't be in touch with a emotional side because as little boys, you told like, you better not cry. So a lot of
Hmm.
times as women, um, that's like a catch 22 because you're coming to the man like why you don't show emotions, but then if a man show you emotions, you
Hmm.
telling him he's being too soft. So it's like you got to decide, do you want him to show emotions or not show emotions? So a man is confused when
Yeah.
he is, like when you want him, you saying you want one thing, but if you get that one thing, then you emasculating him. So
Yeah.
it's like you don't know which, like they don't know which side
Just
of the
flip
fence
flop.
to be on, right? So they don't know to be vulnerable with you or not be vulnerable with you.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times when a woman is angry, she throws the vulnerability back up in his face. So
Yeah.
men have issues showing the vulnerable side of them. Um, how do you um, deal with men who might have experienced any um, sexual abuse as kids? Because I know a lot of times that can play um, a role on men. Because a lot of men become sexually explicit because they feel like they got something to prove
Hmm.
if they was molested as kids. Because they feel like they trying to show that I'm a man, when it's not. It was something that's not their fault. But a lot
Yeah.
of times you'll hear men say that they because they fighting that demon, they
Yeah.
battling with themselves because they didn't get that healing
Hmm.
from that particular issue. So how would you handle something like that?
So I haven't dealt with anybody that has got like molested or anything. I can speak to like the hypersexuality that can come from it. Because it can also be steered from the lack of love in the household. For example, like a lot of men, we don't often talk about it, but moms leave wounds too, just as much as dads. But everybody always talks about the father wounds. And you can see like kids who come from single moms who feel like this is my child, like this is my man. I don't need no man. I got my son. Like I see that a lot. And for me, it's weird. But when that man becomes older, he can't connect to another woman because his mind's on you. And then they have that stress of moms like fighting it because it's like, oh, my son is getting married, my son's getting married. It's like this panic, and it's a natural thing, mother thing, but it leaves a wound. And so a lot of those men who didn't get the love from mom, that's why they're chasing women. They're chasing women trying to find that love and not realizing that the one issue is your connection with your mother.
So if somebody kind of identifies that as a challenge for them as one of these barriers that are holding them back from, being the person that they truly are, what kinds of interventions are you doing with that person?
For men, we like to be challenged. So I like to challenge my men to say, like, okay, we found the root issue. Now let's work on that issue. It doesn't have to be one big, like, change over a week or so. It could be gradual changes, as simple as just sitting down with your mother and talking, or your having lunch once a month or something like that. Just planting those little seeds because the love is going to grow and the love is going to win at the end of the day.
So what got you interested in becoming a coach? How did you start to work with men on these challenges?
Okay, so going back to my childhood, I didn't really grow up in I'll say a broken home is what I grew up in, right? And I through life, my parents actually got divorced. I seen domestic violence, and the divorce happened in the same night, right? And that was like 7 years old. And mind you, earlier I said in the first 7 years is the most important. So I that developed a lot of anger over time, and it just stacked and stacked and stacked. When I was about 16, I actually wanted to commit suicide. By the grace of God, I'm still here, but I wanted to do that, and I just kept going with so much anger. And I even had a friend. She told me like, "You're angry," and I would always fight back and say, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." And so I started to realize that, okay, I am angry. It was like years later, and I started to work on it. And the last conversation I had with her, she was like, "You're a lot calmer than you used to be." And I was like, huh. So you can get to the other side of all this pain and all this trauma. So I was trying to figure out like how can I really be of help in the world? Because I was doing IT for 10 years and that's just sitting there at my computer not talking to anybody, right? So I was like, how can I be more of a service to the world and help people out? And I thought, well, then why not go help men? Why not be that man that somebody didn't have growing up and help teach them, help mold into them? And so I've been on this journey and I started with myself. I always say I was my first client. And I'm still working on myself. I'm still a client of myself. And so then it just graduated. I started meeting other men and I just started talking. And it was like, okay, this is my calling. Like, I am great at this. So let's do this.
Have you ever had counseling or therapy yourself?
I have. I've had two therapists, actually.
Okay. And what was your experience with counseling and therapy? How did you perceive it, like it, didn't like it, or what?
I actually liked it. Both of them, I went into it with a strategic plan, though. Some people just go start looking for therapists and not really know what they're looking for. So in my first therapist, I knew specifically I wanted a black woman, so that they can help me with my emotions and really like give me that king, like, feminine side to help me nurture that side of myself. And then I said, okay, I'm done with that therapist, and I took off for a while. And then I say, okay, now I'm getting to that level of manhood where I need to level up. So now let me go find a black king to teach me. And and with that, I actually prayed on it for a while and I interviewed my therapist. And I think like 4 interviews, talked to him in the consultations. And then the last one, I said, this is the right one. And long and behold, he went through pretty much what I went through, and he was able to help guide me and bring up different points. And even that, it helped my marriage in different ways. Just talking to him about like some of the struggles I'm having with my wife, he's like, "Oh, well, ask her this question." I'm like, "Okay, I'll go ask her the question," and then she has a revelation, which impacts me, right? And so I've always had a really great experience with it. I say everybody should be in therapy at one point.
What were some of those other ways that, I mean, so it's interesting to me that you did individual therapy and then that helped your marriage and your relationship. And a lot of times when people have challenges in a relationship, they'll think, oh, well, we need to go to marriage counseling or relationship counseling. But so often that individual counseling is that first step towards that and that first kind of necessary step. So can you tell us a little bit more about how your individual journey was helpful in your marriage and your relationship?
Yes. So going individually, it really did, it was never planned to help both of us, but I always had the thought like, okay, if I'm working on myself and you're working on yourself, it's going to automatically come into the marriage. And so she has her own therapist and I have my own therapist, and it actually allowed us to have like an issue or something come up, and she can go speak freely without me feeling like bad about what she said and vice versa. And so she's actually therapied me a couple of times. That's what we call it. Like, when we go to our therapist, they give us a challenge. We say, "Oh, you therapied me," but we will always do it and then tell the other person, like, "Hey, this is what I just did to you, and I got it from my therapist." And we're always like really receptive of it because it's like, "Oh, I just learned that about myself." Like for example, my therapist had told me because I always said my wife had an issue with me like giving feedback. And I was like, there's a reason why. You can't be mad at me every time I give you feedback. So I was talking to my therapist about it, and he said, go to her and ask, did you ever feel like you had to perform as a kid? And when I asked her, she said yes. And in that moment, it let me know to say like, I don't need you to perform for me. I just need you to like be on the team and we go in the right direction. And so it helped with the communication in that aspect as well. And it allowed her to calm her body down and say, okay, I'm safe and safer here, and I can really get into this.
What are some of the things that men come to you for other than like help with their marriage and relationships?
Okay, so marriage, finding their purpose, just trying to figure out what manhood is or what it looks like. And even just for community, I have a free community that men can come into, and we host calls and have conversations about anything, extra questions. It's typically those just for the knowledge and the wisdom of mental health and just what it means to heal from that old trauma while still pursuing their purpose and also just growing.
Yeah, there are so many challenges. I think you guys have brought up such great points about the expectation on men in our society and how that expectation is like
It's heavy.
it's yeah, I mean really that there is a lot of focus, I think, right now on, the mental load and invisible work of women,
Hmm.
but there's not as much discussion happening about that mental loading and invisible work on men.
Right.
And I think it's because, historically, men have had more of the external pressure responsibility, right? And
Right.
there hasn't been that focus on the internal world for men as we're kind of as a society treating men and women differently. And so being able
Right.
to have that opportunity now to say, okay, as a man, I'm not just, right, the external pieces. I'm a human being inside here, apart from my role
Right.
in society, right? Apart from my relationships to others, apart
Hmm.
from, my function in the world and the things I'm supposed to be. So who am I inside? And I think that the idea that, a lot of times it comes down to like, who am I allowed to be? And that's
Hmm.
so narrow in our society because
It
we
is.
really like, and I like that you're breaking that down and saying, no, like you're allowed to be and you should be exactly who you are. So
Right.
each piece of identity is stands on its own. It doesn't have to be, well, this is my persona and all of the pieces kind of come in this box like a Lego set, right? Like, no, we go,
Hmm.
no, we're a box of Legos that's dumped on the floor and all mixed up, and we get to pick what pieces are right for us. And I think it just really gives that permission for men to do that and to explore that and be
Hmm.
able to say, oh, I'm going to take pieces from all sides here, and I'm going to let go of those expectations that have been placed on me, right? I can say, yes, I acknowledge
Hmm.
those expectations. They are real. They are out there. That feeling of pressure is valid because those expectations are there. And I don't need to accept those expectations on myself. I'm allowed to build myself from scratch. And so
Hmm.
I like that idea of like, yeah, who would we be if we didn't have these beliefs that we had been told over and over in our
Hmm.
lives, and challenging that those are not the truth necessarily. Those are just what we've heard all the time. And
Right.
I love that example of that's not my belief, that's my father's belief. I think that's so powerful
Hmm.
to be able to say, no, my worldview is my own, and it's allowed to
Hmm.
be my own. So when you are, and I know that you tend to work with high achievers, and you tend to, focus on success in a man's life. So what does that success look like, and how is it different for high achievers that you work with?
I really think it's different for everybody. Nobody's life is the same, right? And so I work with everyday men. I work with any man who comes to me, and you, if you're ready for help, I'm ready to help you, right? And it's really not different with a group of people. It's more so like individually because everybody has their own challenges, their own goals, and success is very. How do you feel success for yourself? Like I don't have the answer, like nobody else will have the answer. That answer is already inside of you. So it's more so guiding them to that answer while breaking off. And like I'll use your puzzle analogy. It's like putting two puzzles in a bag and shaking it up. And now you have to go through the bag to figure out which pieces go to which puzzle, which one is you and which one is the other puzzle. And 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 so it's a lot of guiding them to that.
So when you do your podcast, how do you structure or choose what do you talk about? Is it like topic based or um is it centered around like men, like sending you questions or different things like that?
So it's centered around manhood as a whole, because I think every part of it needs to be shine. It needs to be conversation. So I actually invite men to come on and share their stories. Just men that I've met out in the world or I have business connections with, and just kind of talk about their challenges and how they overcome. And also, so it's a best of teaching lessons while showing like, okay, you're not the only one that's going through that problem. Because sometimes just knowing like, okay, I'm not the only person having these financial issues right now when the government is shut down. It's other men and they're all feeling the exact same way I'm feeling. And that's where community comes in. It's let's get in community talk. That's the problem. Nobody wants to talk.
Yeah, how are the financial struggles right now? I mean, jobs are there's so many layoffs happening right now. Jobs are difficult to come by right now. So many assistance programs and really like lifeline programs, support programs that so many people uh, need have been shut down right now. And so how does that impact men specifically? There's this provider feeling, right? There's like this expectation on men to be a provider
Yeah.
and to do things a certain way. And I know that financial struggles, feeling that sense of not getting our needs met or not being able to provide, that impacts men and women differently, not necessarily
Mhm.
because like they're different, but because society expects us to be a certain
Yeah.
way around those financial struggles. So, what kinds of things are you seeing in terms of how that is impacting the men that you work with?
I would say not even just the men that I work with, just like being out and just seeing men and just like hearing conversations. It's hard because society has told us for so long that all we were supposed to do is provide money. That's what the older generation of men, that's all they did was work, military, whatever they had to do to bring in money. And so now it's who are you without the money? Like, and this is when it's important to realize, like, okay, I am more than just an ATM for my family. Like even my family, like with if you're a parent, if you're a father, it's like you sometimes your kids just well, really every time your kid just wants you to be present. And there's a difference between being there and going to work and being present. And so a lot of men are trying to figure out like, okay, what am I going to do? I have a family to take care of. Bills are still due. And when you don't have that peace inside yourself and just say like, no matter what, I'm going to be okay. Your brain is in survival mode trying to figure out what to do. So there's a lot of stress on men right now. And I've seen a grown man cry maybe earlier this week because he works for the federal government. Him and his wife both work for the federal government.
That the places that we put our identity and
Mhm,
that we draw our identity from, they can feel a lot of times like putting our identity in something can
mhm,
feel like, oh, that's like strengthening my identity. But I think what we're seeing is that when we put our identity in certain things, it puts us at risk of losing that part of ourselves or that
mhm,
identity or that sense of identity because things like our incomes, things like our job titles,
mhm,
things like our, ability to provide or what our bank account looks like, when we put our
mhm.
identity and our trust into those things, we're vulnerable. We can't control any of
Yep.
those things. And all of those things can be taken away so quickly, it is
Mhm,
as quickly as one day to the next. One day we've got that job title and we've got that income and we're doing okay and we're paying our bills. And then the next day,
mhm.
it can all be taken from us. And if we have that peace of mind, I love that you said, who am I without the money, right? If money's not affecting,
Right.
am I? Because when we put our faith in money, when we put our faith in that, in our salary or our job, then
Hmm.
we're going to be let down. Like there's not an option where we do that and we're not let down. We are going to be let down at some point. But if
Absolutely.
we have that, um, if our faith in what who we are, what we bring to the table, what our worth is, if we're putting that
Hmm.
in other things like our skills that we're building or
Hmm.
our values or our character, and the way that we interact with the world, the way that we think about and process things, if we put our faith and our identity into those things, then
Hmm.
we can't be let down because nobody can take that from us. There are going to be
Right.
situations that it will be very tempting for us to give those things away, right? Or compromise those things,
Right.
but nobody can take those things from us. So it's really, it sounds like it's really about putting our identity into the things that actually matter, that are actually who we are,
Yes.
and not all of those external things, because those things will be taken from us. We have
Absolutely.
we have no control over that at
Yeah.
all. And sometimes it takes losing those things to be able to build this that secure foundation of, okay, even without that job, even without that,
Hmm.
even without, this or that, this is who I am, and I'm still worthy. I'm still worthy of love. I'm still worthy of being human
Hmm.
here on this earth. I'm still worthy of respect, of respecting myself and of other people being respectful to me.
Exactly.
I'm still worthy of those things, even without any of that external stuff. I love that.
Yeah, and to your point, I had to go through that, and that's how I'm in a position where I can help like in those men in this time because there was a time where I was like, okay, I have to leave this job because this is not what I need to do, and I just kept getting this signs to leave, and I ended up leaving. And maybe some months later, I got the same sign from my wife, but she fought it, and then one day something said to write her a 2 week notice, and she used it that weekend. Because she got into a car accident. That was the only car we had because at that point I wasn't working. I sold my car to keep our house. And so we had one car and she got into an accident hard enough to where the car would break, but she was completely undamaged. And I said, see, this is not a coincidence. And then she couldn't get to work because worked like 30 minutes away. And I believe like her taking the Uber back and forth would have took over 50% of her check. So I was like, there's no point of you going. And her principal was trying to get her fired and all these other things. And she finally used it. And so we sat for a year, no, 18 months with no income coming in. And it was the hardest time for me because I mean, as you said, society expects us to be that provider. It expects us to always have the money. Your status as a man is typically tied to how much money you have, and that's what I thought. I was living the life. I had all this money. I was having fun traveling, and boom. And it was in those moments I said, okay, I have to figure out what's wrong. I have to figure out where to go next. There was days I cried. There was days that I was good. It was up and down. But it took a lot of not chasing the externals and starting to chase the internal. And me doing that reflected on her and then it reflected on the kids as well. And I realized, I said, no money. If we were living in a box, my family would just be happy the fact that they're with me and that I'm with them and I'm giving them my presence. And now I'm like and I didn't get that as a kid. Like my dad was always at work. My parents split. It was this whole thing. And my siblings are like way older than me. So I'm seeing a different light within my family. And I believe like kids really are gifts. Kids are gifts for sure. And they even teach you something about yourself or teach you something about life because they're coming with a brand new perspective. They have no idea what happened to you. So as a man, that's where you get rooted at home. Like the money's gonna come and go, but getting rooted at home, and even if you don't have a family, you're planning to start a family, start internally, chase yourself, and that's where you're gonna find your true joy.
I love that. I just love everything you just said. That is so, because a lot of men don't take the time to do self inventory. And I think
Mhm.
you need to take the time to do the self inventory. It's like people want all the things, but they don't take the time to do the self inventory. And not just men,
Mhm.
but even women too.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I always say, like I have friends that say, "Oh, I want this relationship," or this, or they want to live with a guy or want a kid. And I'm like, if you had that right now, can you handle it? Like you have to be
Right.
honest with yourself. If you was presented with all these things, can you
Hmm.
honestly handle all these things? Are you ready for all these things? Like you're not
Yeah.
ready for all these things. Like it's a responsibility than just saying you have somebody or you with somebody. Like you dealing with another person's emotions, their feelings. Like it's more than just a person's presence in your,
Right.
in your life or in your space.
Hmm.
But my question to you is, what do you want people to know about men's mental health? Because this is something I'm starting to see. This is more of a trend now. Like men are starting to talk about men's mental health because a lot of times, I tell people all the time,
Hmm.
like you see men. I say a lot of times you see these men and they self-medicating, they hurting. Even a lot of these young guys, I say you see them, they on pills and different things, and I said they self-medicating because they hurting. Like they don't know how to deal with their emotions. They don't know how to deal with their pain. So, they out here
Kind of
doing
numb it.
illegal things. Or I say,
Yeah.
and then a lot of times I say with the younger guys, they don't see their friends like unalive in front of them. So it's like being at a
Hmm.
war, but not really at war, just living in living in the inner cities. You know what I'm saying? Like how many of their friends that they went to school with that's no longer here that they done seen passed away.
Hmm.
I said, so they mind cannot cope with some of the things that they seen. And then so many mothers, like the thing you said with the mothers. I'm a boy mom. I have three
Hmm.
adult sons. And I don't like for mothers to say like, oh, like my son is the man of the house. No, your kids are a
Yeah.
child. He's a child. He's not the man of anything because what you're doing is you put him in the it's like you want a kid to be a kid, but you put him in a sense of making him think he's in ownership of running something, and that's not
Hmm.
okay. Because then when you get to a point where you meet someone, he think you done told him he's the man of the house, so
Yeah.
now he feel like he's have some authority. Like you
Hmm.
cannot. It's like either you want him to be the man of the house, like you say, quote unquote. Like
Hmm.
some of these single parents lean too much on their older kids
Yeah.
for too many things, and then it's like they lose their whole childhood when you do that. They don't have the chance to be kids, and
Hmm.
that's what a lot of what's being missed out on. Like you have parents partying with their kids, and I just don't like people used to think I'm crazy because I always did, like I didn't have company in front of my children. I didn't let people come over my
Hmm.
house. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no need for you to meet my kids if we weren't dating longer than a year. And people used to say like, "Oh, you're letting your kids run your life." No, it's not. It's called respecting your kids. It's like it's no need
Protecting
to
them.
intertwine your children with people if you don't even know what's going on with them. Like I
Right.
just don't understand this generation. Like you see so many stories on the news with people with stuff happening to kids and people knowing somebody 2 weeks and they let them watch their child while they go to work, or
Yep.
and this person ain't don't even have contact with their own children. So it's like make it make sense, but then you want to get on camera, you crying, you want us to come fund your GoFundMe's. Like
Yeah.
I felt like you should be held accountable. This child didn't have no say so over who was watching them while you went to go party or whatever you went to go do. Like it's
Hmm.
just not fair. But I'm sorry, back to the question.
All good.
I just went on a tangent. I'm sorry. But how do you feel about well, what do you want the world to know about men's mental health? Because I'm starting to see a lot of men who are starting to come together and talk about men's mental health because it's something that really need to be talked about.
I think, well, I say I think I know a man's mental health is the most important thing he has, right? And when you think about the world runs on families. There's a lot of single people who are uh, like, I want to get married, I want to have a family, and there's families that are expanding, they're growing businesses. A lot of if you look at the most successful people, and like especially in the world, they're all families. There's always a family tree, right? And so, and with the man being the head of the family, his mental health trickles down to everybody else. It bleeds on his wife, it bleeds on his kids. And I tell men all the time, like, you cannot hide anything because everything you're trying to hide is coming out of your pores. It's bleeding. It's in your reactions. It's how you think about things. It's in your circumstances. It's literally your reality. And and so being at the top is the most important because you have to be able to show up healthy, have space to even take on somebody else's emotions, especially your wife and your kids. You have to really be able to show up in a space, a posture of I'm at peace knowing that the world is after me, but I have love here. Holistically, all parts of our lives are one big whole: emotional, physical, mentally, spiritual, right? And to grow one area, you have to grow the other area. Like you're not going to be able to grow your mental if you're not working on physical, what you're eating, what you're drinking, working out, or if you're spending time in whatever spirit you believe in. You have to have some grounding for the rest of it to go up.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a message of in order to do the things that we're kind of striving for, uh, we have to take care of ourselves. And that's a hard
Def-
one, I think for men and for women, but kind of for different reasons.
Yeah.
For women, it can sometimes feel like, well, it's hard to prioritize myself because I'm supposed to take care of everybody else. And for men, for so long, that message has been, suppress your feelings and don't talk about how you're feeling and don't express how you're feeling and that there's this idea of weakness when it comes to needing support, right? This idea that we're
Hmm.
strong because we're independent, or we're strong because we don't need help or we don't need support. And
Hmm.
that's a really challenging one to, as an
It is.
individual, to fight against, because
Hmm.
in our family units and in growing up and even in school, school
Hmm.
teaches us that it's problematic to ask for help, that we should be,
Hmm.
right? I mean, children get in trouble and high schoolers get in trouble for like cheating when they work together on a project or help each other or ask each other for answers. But in
Hmm.
the real world, that's how we have to interact with the people around.
Yeah.
We can't have all the information memorized. We've got to reach out to other people and ask for their help or ask for support or ask for information.
Hmm.
Um, but the systems that we're part of, uh, do send that message of it's right to be independent. It's right to be strong, and that strength means uh, not acknowledging the challenges that we have, not doing the things to take care of the challenges that we have. And so I like the idea that no, strength comes from within. And so that means we
Hmm.
have to look at those things that are within us, and we have to ask for and accept help and support from other people. We have to share those experiences, the painful things that are going on with us,
Hmm.
that we're feeling. We have to share those with other people, because what's scarier than being vulnerable?
You're
So
right.
think about, like, what does it mean to be strong and brave? Well, one of the scariest things we can ever do is be vulnerable in front of another human.
Hmm.
So we think about cats, right? And we have two cats. I love cats. And when they are feeling secure with whoever person or other animal is around, they'll roll over, right? And they'll show their belly. They'll do vulnerable actions to show, okay, I trust you enough to do that. And we think, oh, that's so cute. But really, what that is it's a show of strength, right? They're saying,
Hmm.
I don't feel like I need to be strong and on guard and try to look tough and big, right? I can do
Right.
things that are showing vulnerability, and it takes a lot of courage for that animal to do that. It takes a lot of courage for us
Absolutely.
to do that. So I think that, the more that we're acknowledging that it does take a lot of strength to address those things, to share those things, to get support for
Hmm.
those things, to do the work, and to be vulnerable. I think the more that we can progress as a society and take a lot of those challenges off of ourselves and take those, we can't take those expectations out of society, but we can take those expectations off of ourselves. And we can take those expectations, we can be one less person putting those expectations on our kids. You know, our kids are still going
Yeah.
to get it. They're still going to be taught these things at school. They're still right. They're still going to be told by teachers. When my daughter was in kindergarten, her friend fell and scraped her knee, and the teacher said, you know, you're fine, walk it off. And I went, oh no, right? When they're in kindergarten, they should be able to go to a teacher and get help for something like that, right? Um,
Right.
so it starts really, really young, and we don't have control over how other people in society will put those
Right.
expectations or suggestions on our children, but we get to control if we're one less person who does that. And if we're one person who sets that example of you can be vulnerable with me, I'm going to show you being vulnerable in front of you, right? So when there's so many adult men who have grown up and said, I never saw my father cry, right? I never saw
Never.
my father never said I loved
Never.
you or showed any affection, right? Those kinds of things. And so to not see that growing up or experience that growing up and then feel like I want to do that for my children, right? I want my children
Hmm.
to have that, but oh my gosh, how do I even do that?
Right.
Takes acknowledging that and then reaching out for support because there are other men who are doing.
Hmm.
There are other men who
Yeah.
have had fathers who have done those things and modeled that for them, and they can be the models for us. So
Exactly.
that we know, you know, what we're doing and how we can do that. So I just love that. And sometimes we can get so caught up too in like, well, this is how I was raised, and so, you know, why should it
Hmm.
fall to me to make that
Your default
change?
setting.
Yes. And the truth is, you know, like we don't have to change those generational patterns. You know, nobody is
Hmm.
saying we have to. Most of the time we want to. And I think that when
Hmm.
we take that, like, well, why does it have to be me that has to be the one, right? I didn't get that support. Why should I do that for my kids? And the truth is, like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do it.
Right.
Plenty of people don't do it, and plenty of people say, nope, I want to do that. It comes from inside that I want to make those changes. I want my children to have
Hmm.
their needs met, their emotional needs met, and to be able to see these things. I want my grandchildren to grow up with parents who had parents who showed them affection and
Hmm.
who supported them and let them be vulnerable in their own home. And you've talked about creating that safe space at home, whether we're with family in our home or whether we're by ourselves at
Hmm.
home. And that truly is the most, in my opinion, as a mom especially, that's the most important thing that I can do in a day is make
Yeah.
this house a safe place for
Yeah.
child and for my husband too.
Yeah. And to your point, you don't have to, but I will say as a man, like you should. That is really your responsibility. Whether
Mhm.
you do your responsibility, I feel like you should, but you
Yeah,
don't have to,
you don't have
right? But I feel like as a parent, like, you just get that instinct. That instinct wants you to do it, right? And I always say we need to redefine what strength is in the man community. Because a lot of the men is like, okay, I'm just gonna hold it in, bottle it up, and just deal with it. I'm gonna walk with it. Don't worry about it. I'm not gonna talk to my wife about it. I'm not gonna talk to another guy about it. I'm just gonna handle it. And it's like you just created a ticking time bomb inside of yourself that's gonna explode. I mean, it might hurt somebody. It may not. It just depends how you explode or what triggers you, right? And so I say there's strength in being vulnerable because you have to be vulnerable with yourself first, which means that you have to look within and chase yourself and say, okay, I am a problem. Because if you can't say it to yourself and really believe it, then you're not going to want to fix it. You're not going to want to seek help. You're not going to want to talk to anybody about it because you have this, I want to be perfect look. I want to be strong look. And I think one of the hardest things I had to do was sit down with my son and apologize for anything I may have done that have left a bruise on him. And we always explain to them like what we went through as kids. And I think a lot of time as parents, we hide things from our kids, right? And I'm like, this is a perfect time for them to learn. They don't have to know everything, but you can take your life and some of the things that you learned, reverse it, and teach it in a different way. And it's that strength of just showing up and being present and being vulnerable with yourself to even say, I may need to go find a community of men that I can just talk with, have fun with. We can maybe do business together. That's what I say. Like your network is your net worth, right? It's like just get in the community and talking to people. You never know who is here to change your life.
So my question to you is two it's kind of two part. So
Okay.
how do you take care of your mental health daily and how do you stay motivated?
So every morning I spend time with myself, right? I wake up, I pray, like thank you God for waking me up. I'm at that point I'm reading devotionals, really getting grounded spiritually, and then it's off to the gym. So that's about like 4:45 in the morning. I'm at the gym every morning working out, and then I get to come home, shower, just decompress for maybe about 30 minutes, and then it's okay. Now I can go be a dad, right? Get my kids off to school, and then it's okay. All right, let me read. Whatever book I'm reading at the moment. Right now, I'm reading a book by Glenn Henry. It's Follow Yourself First. And so I'm really enjoying that book. He actually just released it last week. And it's been teaching me a lot. So I pour into myself for pretty much the entire morning. And then it's by 10 a.m. That's when I'm starting to actually get into my work. And so it's a constant every day. And then there's those days where I'll go and cold plunge, steam room, infrared sauna, cold plunge. I'll take a walk in nature with my dog. It's just different things, stimulate my mind, get out of that fight or flight mode and just get that peace and that calm and that quiet.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite sayings, the saying of everybody should spend an hour in nature every day, unless you're too busy,
Absolutely.
and then you should spend 2 hours, right? So I think the busyness of life, and especially
Mhm.
parenting and of life, it can be easy to overlook a lot of those important steps,
Absolutely.
those action steps, and doing it first thing in the morning, absolutely, because nobody wants to do that after work. Nobody wants
Oh
to do
yeah.
that in the evening, when they're trying to get dinner ready for the kids and go into sports,
Right.
all of that stuff. Nobody has time for that in the evening,
Nobody.
and nobody has energy for that. So absolutely, getting that stuff done just to set that day
Hmm.
is great. And I also loved how you talked about talking to our kids, because you're right, people, we have this tendency to want to hide stuff, to shield them, right, to protect them
Right.
from the things that we've been through. And I just really, I enjoy sharing those things with my child, because
Yeah.
I make decisions that she doesn't always agree with, but I always make sure she understands why. And so
It creates that bond as well.
yeah, absolutely. And they can
So
handle it. They can
they can.
handle it. They
They
can do
love it. They actually
it.
crave it. And it's like, as parents, we don't think about it because it's that grind culture. I have to go to work. I have to make the money. I have to make the money. And it's just like, slow down. Slow
Yes.
down. How you start your day is how the rest of your day is going to go. So if you start positive, the rest of the day is going to go positive. But it creates that bond with your kids because they're like, okay, I understand you more. And they're the most natural beings in the world before the trauma and everything. So they're going to automatically get that empathy from them. You're going to get that love from them and they're going to understand you more and be more rooted into you. So, like you said earlier, when they go out into the world and they hearing all these things, they don't believe it because it's like, no, you can call me ugly, but my dad told me I'm cute.
Yeah.
So I'm good. So I tell my daughters every morning, I say, good morning, beautiful, give hugs and kisses. Like nobody on the street is going to be able to top me and have fun.
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. And they'll join us in those self-care things.
Hmm.
We're doing them and they see us doing them. They will join us in
Ah,
those as well. And
my
it's
toddler does yoga
yeah, I know it's
and she loves it.
yes, absolutely. It's awesome to see that, because we're living it, right? We're modeling it. We
Hmm.
don't have to tell them, you should be doing this or that. We just go, okay, I'm doing that, and
Right.
we see that, and then a lot of times they will join it, because
Hmm.
that's just what we're doing, right? So
Yeah, because kids follow what you do, not what you say.
that's right.
And you have to be vulnerable enough to be that leader in the home.
Yes. Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here, Adam. This has been great. And so your podcast is the Interking Initiative. So
Hmm.
check that out. And then we can find you on Instagram at the Adam Wilson and an underscore after Wilson, the Adam Wilson.
Yep.
And then on school, skool.com, there is a link we'll put in the show notes for your group as well. That's a
Yep.
group, and to be able to start that individual coaching online as well. So this
Yep.
has been wonderful. We really appreciate you being here and sharing your example, especially of and your story of, going from, a lot of people are going to find themselves in the place that you were. And when you were sharing your story about what you and your wife went through with your jobs and those transitions, so many people are finding themselves in that place right
Yep.
now. And so your model of being able to thrive after that and be more purpose filled and be in this position where you are doing
Mhm.
what you feel like you're meant to be doing after
Absolutely.
doing, IT and having that not be it. I love that. It's a great example.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Adam, for being here.
I'm Adam Wilson, and I need a counselor.
I'm Tenesha Gatson,
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
and so do you.
Perfect.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us